Thank you for tuning in to the creator of Heaven and Earth blog. Again, it's me, Michelle, and we're going to continue our Bible study. This is Revelation 13, and I want to kind of just go right into it um, because I only really have 25 minutes to use during screen share. Or screen recordings. So I want to try to eat up as much as that time as possible. So we left off at verse 2 in Revelation. We got to venture over to Daniel, get a little bit of Daniel in. We got to see the image of the statue on the last podcast or vlog. So let's go ahead and get into verse 3 of Revelation 13. It reads, "And I saw one of the heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast." I want to pull up some information here that I want to share, and we're going to kind of go over some things together here. So, one moment. Okay. All right. So, I'm going to share a little bit of information. I think I might have, hold on, I think I moved my information. Hold on. Okay, I think I'm ready to show the information. So this fourth beast is the Roman Empire, and on the image of that fourth beast, it's iron, and we know one of the things that Rome was good at molting was iron. Okay, so it was the Roman Empire. Um, And we know that the Roman Empire dominated the world and had the world's greatest military um, of one time. So we do know that. Now, I don't want to pull up all that information. That is searchable information. Any of this information is searchable. I just want to use some, oops, let's see, one of my tabs. I'm not really worried about that tab. Okay, so anyway, it says in verse 3, "And I saw one of the heads." We're now talking about the Roman Empire. We've already because we've already had the when John is looking at this beast, he's looking at this beast as it is to get one beast. So it's got all of these combined. He's not looking at them how Daniel saw them individualized. So he's looking at them as if they're meshed together. So in verse 3, it reads, "And I saw one of its heads, as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast." Now, we know Babylon, it fell. Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon, it didn't fall to where it was like bankrupt or having economic issues. It was just that it was invaded by the Medes and the Persians, and they took it peacefully. It wasn't as violent as it could have been. They took over the kingdom and killed the king. Oh, I can't think of his name right now. Bel Belshazzar. It's not Belteshazzar. It's not Daniel's name, but it's close. Um, but it's Baal is in their name. But e- they killed him in his sleep, okay, and they took over the empire. And then when uh, Greece took over the Persian Empire, or the Medo-Persian Empire, um, of course, Alexander the Great went through conquering, right? Um, Now, Roman Empire took over the Greece. Like I said, they all kind of overlap. Roman Empire took over the Greece em- uh, Empire and their territories, and of course added and expanded some of their own. And then when the Roman Empire, so here's the Roman Empire, and this is when it was on the verge of falling. Actually, what in the world? Let's go right here. So, um, the crisis of the third century, also known as the Imperial Crisis 235 to 284, was the period in which the history of the Roman Empire, during which it splintered into three separate political entities: the Gallic Empire, Roman Empire, and the Pomeranian Empire. These breakaway empires, as well as social turmoil and chaos, was which characterized the period, resulted from a number of factors, and it goes through here. So if this is something that you want to get into history-wise, you can. So this is the deadly wound where the empire had begun to split and fall, but eventually they got it back together. Okay, I'm not going to go through all that because the next point that I want to get to is that when did it start breaking into the multiple? We get to the feet and it starts to. I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Let me get my image here because there's something I didn't point out. So the head of gold we know is Nebuchadnezzar. His kingdom made a huge, I think it was 90 foot or whatever, however tall it was, image of gold. Okay. And then the Medes and Persians. Um, so, how do we know that this statue is telling us there's going to be two kingdoms? Look at the arms. So you have the chest, which you have the dividing. That's where your sternum and sternum is. So that am I saying that right? Yeah, sternum. I don't know why I'm struggling with that. And then you have your right and your left arm, right? So one is Medo, one is Persia, and then you see them joined together. The hands are together because they will rule together. All right. And then you have the brass belly and thighs, which this was Alexander the Great here. And then we go into the two legs. And we do know Alexander the Great kingdom began to split after he died. He died at 33 years old. He did not have a successor. He did have children, he had, but they were not lined up to take his throne, because I don't think he was married to the mothers or whatever. But the generals, his four top generals, took parts of the kingdom, which is why in Daniel you will see the leopard with four wings and four heads, four generals. God is into details. But you also see that part of the thigh here is brass. So the two thighs, there's two. And what happened with the four generals is they began to war amongst each other, and two strong generals were remaining. And there was one of the north and one of the south, um, which goes into Daniel, I want to say chapter 11, I believe. So just so you're aware of that. Now we got two legs. Now we're going into the Roman Empire with the iron, iron legs. Okay. So they started as a unit, of course, but still divided. And here, let's see if I can find, oops, hold on, I'm trying to navigate. This is in the Britannica. Eventually, Constantine, Eventually, I just want to point out this when Theodius, Odious died. Theodius, Theodo, I cannot, Theodosius died. In 395, Rome split into Eastern and Western empires. And people always want to point out, but that doesn't mean, and even if you Google it, it says that the Western Empire isn't what we call the West. But I do want to point out this bit of information. One moment. Okay, so we're still in the Britannica, and we're looking at Roman Britain. Britain was a province. Okay, so Britain was a province in the Roman Empire. So a province is a primary administrative division or region within a country, often possessing its own government. So it was in the Roman Empire. Um, And when it split, when the Roman Empire split into the eastern and western legs, that is why you see the two legs. I hope you can see my mouse here. I'm moving it around. The eastern and western legs there, or right, left. So that splitting, and then you get into the feet. This is where you start to see the Roman Empire still exists, but it's taken on a different look. It's revamped. I do recommend that people do the study on the Roman Empire because the United States is also part of the Roman Empire. It has not died. This iron has not left this statue. It's all the way to the toes. It has not disappeared. We are still in the Roman Empire. It is just revamped. And so people like on this individual's picture here that I'm or image I'm using, they put divided Roman Empire, and they put their explanation or of why or whatever. I didn't really read it because I'm not looking for their explanation. I needed the image. Um, One moment. Okay, so um, we're still in the Roman Empire. It is just structured different. This is why you have the iron mixed with clay. So we know they don't mix well. This is why there's a lot of conflict. This is why it is. And the 10 kings is still, the Roman Empire is still the empire of the world. It's just, like I said, revamped, renamed. Um, and it appears as if they're operating individually. But we know Britain became an empire because we remember Queen Victoria's famous saying, the sun will never set on the British Empire. And so, yes, they became a empire, and that's why I always tell people, I know that people, oh, it's the Catholic Church. It might have been at one time. They did have a power, and there were Pope kings, and I understand that. But the empire is not just to a religion. It is a system that is operating in it. And all of these empires from Babylon of Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon, actually, because there's seven heads on the beast. Nebuchadnezzar saw, remember we read the scripture, he said, what comes after his kingdom? So he saw from his kingdom down. So he saw the other five heads, including his. Okay. He didn't see the two before him. The two heads before him was Egypt and Assyria, which Babylon came up out of Assyria. They all fold into each other. So the Catholic Church cannot alone be in the empire because it did not just um, it's not following the same path of world rule. Okay, it played its part as far as especially in religion and for the moment when it had the Pope Kings, but it was not today it's not a sitting force. The ruling, which we see it now, is falling apart because it's time. But the ruling empire, and the world knows it, it's just that we, the citizens of these different countries, don't know it unless you are a history buff or you study the Bible and you are into, even with being a history buff, you might not catch it. You got to have the Bible, you got to have God in this to really get the full picture, full understanding. But um, even in um, even though the United States is in its decline, it it's the little horn. It was a superpower. It had military bases on other continents and in other countries, though it was, you know, part of trading and all of that. But still, um, it has the that power. And now the Medes in Jeremiah 51 is challenging that. Okay. But we're gonna keep it pushing because there is so much I want to cover and I got 8 minutes of tape I can eat up. So let's get back to scripture. So the world wondered after the beast, which is why the Roman Empire is still in effect. Um, and they worshiped the dragon, which we know the dragon is Satan, which gave power unto the beast. We now should understand that these are the kingdoms, the empires. These are not just standard kingdoms, these are empires. Oh, and the 10 horns, let's look back at that image. Let me do this really quick because I want to kind of set us up in the right direction. The 10 toes. Yeah, those are the 10 horns, the 10 kings, the 10 crowns. 10 toes. Like I told you, God is into the details. They're in the feet, they're at the end time, and they are actively operating now. And I can tell you exactly who it is, but I want us all to get there together. So um, let's get back into the scripture. 6 minutes. Okay, so they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? Roman Empire is known for war. United States is known for war. That's why all of their militaries were pretty much um, put into the different continents. They sold themselves on protecting um, these different countries from their enemies. Um, and so they became allies with these countries under, whatever trade and, I'm not going into that because that's a deep, deep, longer than time I got on this this screen recording to share. So, and of course, we have a Department of War now. Um, and people feared the United States because of their military power. Um, so remember that. But in verse 5 it says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things. So now it's showing you that this wasn't just a dragon and a random beast. Well, we know the dragon is Satan, but it wasn't just a random beast, but he has a mouth and he can speak. This is man. So this is not just a part of someone's imagination. Man is definitely playing a part in this, mankind. And speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months. So that's the time frame. The thing with that is because they're like 42 months, well, that then came and went. No, no, it hasn't. Because God time isn't our time. 1,000 days for us is one day with the Lord. And that's scripture for that. Um, so one day with the Lord is 1,000 years. All right. Now you can do the math for that 42 years, but um, 42 months, I'm sorry, but we're going to keep it moving. Um, and I know people say 7 years, but there's more to that. It's not, time is not how we've been taught to understand it. And then verse 6, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle. Now, the tabernacle of God is on the earth and it's still on the earth. Or, well, it's not any longer. It was. Let me rephrase that. But where it was located is on, and that's Jerusalem. Now, it is on the earth, and that was Jerusalem, true Jerusalem, not the one that came to be in 1948. And them that dwelt in heaven. And then it says, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints. Well, we know the Roman Empire definitely made war with the saints. And all the previous empires before it made war because this they're part of the beast. They're part of um, the beast, the first beast. And so, and we're going to get into the United States here on this second one, this next pod cast. So I'm going to close here at verse 8, and I'll pick up on verse 8. With that being said, I speak blessings on top of blessings on top of blessings. I speak life over you. Be blessed.